When Chief Japhet Majau Mukengu of Kamaindi location was hacked to death after being beaten black and blue, the nation recoiled, and within days, suspects were rounded up. And soon after, convictions followed. Those convictions were swift, they were brutal and final. But more than 5 years later, dark clouds of doubt still hover over this case. Were the real killers ever found? Or was our community's thirst for justice too blind, too hurried, too hungry for closure? This is our second installation of the story of 4 murders in Chuka and Embu that shook the nation. A story of violence, vengeance, and a justice system that may have punished the wrong men. Tonight on Murder Tips, we reopen the case of the Kamaindi chief and ask the question, what if those rotting in prison are innocent? When the gavel falls on the innocent, the courtroom becomes a crime scene. I am Brian Obuya. This is Murder Tips in the name of the chief. And so, it begins. On the 30th day of April 2019, the Kamaindi chief, Japhet Majau Mukengu, was killed and his body set on fire in a bloodbath never witnessed before in the little-known Kamaindi village in Tharaka-Nithi County. In fact, that was the very first time I was hearing of such a place as Kamaindi. Kamaindi location is a semi-arid community in Chuka-Igamba-Ng'ombe sub-county in Tharaka-Nithi. Small-scale farmers subsist on livestock and shared resources like River Dhushi. By December 2018, deep grievances over land and river access had created a boiling point between neighbors and the local administration. Murder Tips covered this story extensively on April 10th, 2025 in episode 2 of this series, which we titled 21 Hours of Murder. A brief background of the case is that goats are said to have strayed into the compound of Japhet Mukengu, who is the chief's brother, at about 3 p.m. These animals belonged to Julius Mburu Kenanga, a neighbor.
Mbuzi ziliingia kwa shamba yangu pale nalima na maji, alafu nikazitoa mara 3. Nikaita sub chief akuje turumbisie mwenye hiyo mbuzi zake. Akaniambia ako Chuka kupeleka mtoto yake shule. Alafu ndio nikaita chief. Sibu akaniuliza mbuzi ni ngapi, nikamwambia ni 4. Akaniambia tafuta sub area apeleke hiyo mbuzi kwa mwenyewe, tutakuja kuangalia hiyo maneno jioni. Sasa wakati chief alikuja, alikuta tayari wamepanga mipango ya kuniua mimi. Chifu akakuja kusuia, walikuwa pale kwa ile nyumba. Akakuja akawaambia msiingie nyumba ya mtu, ni kinyume ya sheria.
In hot pursuit of the chief's killers, the OCS Chuka, Kinywangure, had gone with 12 police officers to Embu to arrest a David Ikaba at his butchery after he was linked with the murder. Take note of this part and remember it, because it is the most important part in this second installation of this story. According to Josephat, Mburu Kinanga then organized a team of people to recover the goats. These people were many, but according to him, they included Gerard Njeru Ntoibua, John Nthega Kirema, Cecilia Katora Rochanga, Lea Mudhoni Ngige, Julius Njeru Kimenye, Jonad Njagi Kibiuibi, Jediel Munywa Munugu, and Tom Kinywa Njoka. All of whom were later arrested and charged with murder. In Josephat Mukengu's words, these were the people he witnessed killing the chief. In fact, in his own testimony before the Chuka court, he described what every accused person had done in graphic detail.
Ndio mtu moja ule sitatanja jina akamugonga mawe ya kishwa. Akachunguka, akauliza kwani ni mbaraya ilikuwa? Ndio wengine walimsingira na panga, wakaenda kwa ile kamba unaona pale imewekwa nguo, akashika hiyo kamba. Wale wanawake walikuwa pande ile wakamsuia na kumpiga na miti sana. Hao wengine wakakamata wakamkatakata.
Gikware told the court that Jonad Njage Kibiuibi picked a stone and hit the chief on the forehead. That Julius Njeru Kimenye then cut the chief on his back with a panga. That the chief started to run away, but Lea Mudhoni Ngige prevented him from running away, and they started hitting the chief on his face using sticks. And at that point, Julius Mburu Kinanga shouted,
"Ako na nguvu sana, kateni yeye mguu." Hapo ndio alikatua mguu akuja kaanguka hapa.
That it was John Nthega Kirema and Julius Njeru Kimenye who cut the chief on the face next to the eyes. That it was Tom Kinywa Njoka who removed a matchbox from his pocket, and after dousing the chief with petrol, he set him ablaze while still alive. In the end, the High Court at Chuka sentenced the 9 people to 30 years in prison. Lady Justice Lucy Gitari saying they had a common intention and that they were conjoined in the crime.
On passing sentence, the court has to treat the accused persons in the same way and avoid disparity of sentence. And in any case, in the court judgment, I did find that all the accused persons participated actively in acts that led to the death of the district. The accused are joined together like CMEC tweets and must suffer the same fate.
From the onset, Murder Tapes had declared its dissatisfaction with the evidence adduced by the witnesses. Murder Tapes had further taken issue with the High Court judgment that failed to weigh the evidence of the defense before it. First, it was about how the star witness, Josephat Mukengu, presented the evidence. The High Court at Chuka failed to raise doubt in how a single witness could recall actions of over 12 people happening simultaneously and remember what each of them did with utmost clarity, as if, as one of them did one thing, the rest stood still. Again from the onset, Murder Tapes had taken interest in the case of John Nthega Kirema, the third accused person. Nthega Kirema was a human resources personnel at the Teachers Service Commission up until his arrest and connection with the murder.
And as a government officer and nearing retirement,
he now speaks for the first time since his life changed dramatically on that fateful day in May 2019.
It was on a Monday. As usual, I did not travel that weekend. I was at home in Nairobi. I woke up in the morning as usual, prepared myself, and left for work at around 6 in the morning. And I think I arrived at the office at around 7:30 or so. And I signed for biometric printout that we normally signed when you report at work at around 7:40 to be precise. Clocking in. I clocked in at around 7:40.
But you got at work at 7:30?
I got at work at the gate. You know, there is a process when you get to the gate. There are other people also going in and all that. And but the time I clocked in was around 7:40. I went to the office. I used to work on third floor. I was a human resource officer or personnel officer. And I did my work the whole day. I never left the office to go far away. I only went out for lunch and went back. And then at around 4:59, to be precise, I left the office and went back and went to town. Normally, it's a short distance. From Upper Hill to town, we take about 30 to 45 minutes. We normally used to take to walk to town other than taking vehicles because of the jam. So I remember getting to town at around some minutes to 6. I stayed in town for close to 1 hour, and I left town some minutes after 7. I boarded a matatu from town and left for Dandora Phase 5. That's where I used to stay. There is a joint owned by Mr. Dick Gitonga called Headquarters. I went to that joint and I stayed there with the friends for some minutes up to around quarter to 9. The joint and my house is not very far. So I walked to the house and got to the house at around 9. And after taking supper, I went to bed. At that time, I was staying with one of my daughters who had just graduated from Nairobi University, and she was still unemployed. So I used to stay with her there while she was looking for employment. So I remember at around midnight, my phone rang, and I was wakened by my wife, who reported to me that there were people outside the house at home who were requesting her to open the door, and I inquired from her if she can see them clearly through the windows, and she told me that she's seeing some people, but she cannot identify them because she doesn't know them. But they are telling her that they are police officers. So I told her to be careful, confirm that they are police officers, and if they are police officers, let her open the door for them, so that they can explain to her why they have come to our homestead at that time. Before we could complete that discussion, they had already banged the door and they entered into the house and took the phone from my wife, who had already woken up and walked close to the door. So from that moment, we did not communicate again. Only at around 2 at night, she called me again from Chuka police station. That's what she told me, that she has been arrested together with my uncle, who is also here, and his wife, and a small kid, a juvenile, who was my brother's son. They have all been arrested and they've been taken to Chuka police station.
Uncle here base?
Yeah.
Your uncle, your wife here base? Their names?
Oh, my wife, Leah Modoni Gige, who is my wife. My uncle, Gerard Ebu Anjero, and my uncle's wife was Gatora, Cecilia Gatora, and the young man's name was Karani. So at that moment, I told her that if she has arrived well at the police station, what are they being told that they have done? Akaniambia the police were rough on them, and they only told them that it is something to do with the death of the chief. And then I was surprised that somebody like her can be involved in that kind of a crime, while I had talked to her the entire day, because it was a day of opening schools. My daughter used to be at Kiriari Girls at that time. She had taken her to school on that day, then come to Embu town, where she prepared her to report back to school. And they parted ways at around 4 or some minutes to 4. And then the kid went to school, and she also left for Ishiara, where she visited her salon, and then arrived at home at around 8. But then you see, she was the first one to be arrested. And while they were at the station, they told her that they were looking for me. They were looking for her husband. So I reasoned that I couldn't go to Chuka before I went to the office to apply for leave, so that I can go to Chuka and also go home to check what was happening. In the morning, I talked to my daughter that was in Nairobi, and I requested, and we agreed that she goes to Chuka to check exactly what was happening with the mother, as I prepared myself now to go to the office the following day to apply for leave.
The evidence of Ndhiga Kirema being at his office during that day was presented before the Lucy Gitari court. Longinos Dibobo Oduya, a security officer at the Teacher Service Commission at the time, appeared before court. It was his evidence that on the material day, John Ndhiga Kirema logged in at the TSC at 7:40 a.m. and left at 4:59 p.m. That from the TSC record, Ndhiga Kirema was on duty on that material day. Dixon Gitonga Kafete, who was defense witness number 11, told the court that he was a businessman who operated a bar and restaurant in Nairobi called Headquarters Retreat in Dandora. He corroborated Ndhiga's alibi by telling the court that he was with him and other friends making merry on the fateful evening. Kirema's daughter, at the time a young graduate, Sonia Kirema, had told the Lucy Gitari court in Chuka that he was in the same house with his father when he received a phone call from her mother about a police operation to flush out killers of the chief back in Chuka.
So in the midnight, I hear my dad's phone calling. Then once he's done with the conversation, he told me that my mom has been arrested. So I was really shocked because I didn't know anything that had happened or when my mom could have been arrested. So he told me the following day he was going to send me to Chuka to go and follow up and find out my mom was arrested.
When she came back in the evening, she told me that they had not been allowed to speak to her. So I went to the office the following morning, which was on 2nd, took forms and applied for leave. But before my leave was approved, that was on 2nd, I was called by some security officers from the security office, requesting that I report to their office because there are people who wanted to talk to me. So when I went down there, they told me that they wanted me to go to Chuka and record a statement. I asked them about what? That's when they were telling me about the chief saga, all that. And we are not arresting you because of committing a crime, but we want you to help us with the investigations. So these officers were from Capitol Hill Police Station. They were required now to complete and fill their names and their work numbers and all that, so that I can be protected from any eventuality. So they took me to Capitol Hill Police Station. I was assuming that the DCI from Chuka will come and record a statement from me at that point, but that one they never did. I slept at the station. The following morning, I spent the whole day there. They did not come until around 4 the following day. That's when they came and took me to Chuka police station and locked me up.
A simple investigation would have involved the investigating officer taking statements from Thiga's supervisor at the TSC, reviewing CCTV footage at the said building, monitoring the movements of his phone and whether it left Nairobi that day, retrieving call data to ascertain that the phone calls that he and his daughter talk about indeed existed, establishing which cell towers facilitated these calls and the location of Thiga Kirema's witnesses. These, plus the evidence of Mburu Kinanga that all the other accused persons were not at the crime scene, would have satisfied the court that something was amiss with the case against the 9. But the investigating officers did nothing to displace Thiga Kirema's original evidence. But more shocking conviction was yet to be said. The Lady Justice Lucy Gitari did not doubt the authenticity of the biometric printout that was presented on behalf of Thiga Kirema. But the judge simply said that I have considered the defense of Thiga Kirema that he left the office in Nairobi at 4:30 p.m. In my view, it was possible for him to be at the scene at the time the offense was committed, that he was known to the witnesses and there was no possibility of mistaken identity. I reject the defense. End of quote. Just that. On that, Murder Tips finds that the High Court erred in law and fact. Google Maps tells you that you will need 3 hours 32 minutes to get down to Chuka and an extra 55 minutes to travel from Chuka to Kamaindi location. Most times, fact is scarier than fiction. You're watching Murder Tips. We take a short break. When we come back, we dig deeper. But what was more disturbing is how the court in Chuka completely ignored the evidence of the second accused person, Julius Mburu Kinanga. The old man was the owner of the goats. Kinanga told the court that he went to graze his goats at 9 a.m., that he later returned the goats to the pen and locked them up and proceeded to take a shower because it was hot. When he returned, he found that Josephat Gikware had opened the goat pen and went with the goats. That Gikware, the chief's brother, led the goats to his home, and Gikware's son, Mwiti, assisted him in locking up Mburu Kinanga's goats. Kinanga told the court that he did not see anyone around Kamaindi until 5 p.m. when his son David Ikaba came with 3 other people. Take note of this also. That Kinanga, his son David Ikaba, and the 3 men that Ikaba had come with proceeded to Gikware's house. Gikware was sitting outside the house, and when he saw them come, he entered inside the house. Further, that they found the area chief already at Gikware's home. Kinanga, while admitting to being at the chief's brother's homestead that day, told the court that all the other accused persons were not at Gikware's house on that day. Kinanga proceeded to tell the court that the young men who were in the company of his son, David Ikaba, then released the goats and told Kinanga to take them home, which he did, leaving his son and the 3 men at the compound of Gikware. Let me create some context here. With Kinanga's testimony, he already places his son David at the center of the killing. By now, I want you to begin understanding why this name Ikaba, the OCS, and the killing in Embu is important. According to Kinanga, he woke up the following day, the day after picking his goats with the help of his son and 3 men, and as usual, he went to visit his brother. That on that day, he was arrested at 11 a.m. while at his brother's house and told that his son David Ikaba had killed the chief. Take note, the arresting officers told Kinanga that it was not him, but his son who had killed the chief. The Lady Justice Lucy Gitari Court ignored this evidence in toto. The court failed to ask itself why prosecution witness number 1, Josephat Gikware, never mentioned that David Ikaba name in his list of people who attacked the chief, yet he knew him.
Na huyu mwenye mbuzi wakati wa kujitetea aliongea ukweli vile kitendo iliku, na hao watu walitenda hiyo kitendo, ndio OCS alikuwa amefuatana na wao Kezoe, akaua ule kijana alikuwa anaitwa David mwenye alikuwa amekuja na wale walitenda kitendo, akaenda OCS akaenda kaua ule kijana, bibi yake akisundia na maso. Bila nilisikia huyo bibi yake akisema OCS wakati alisuti ule David na bunduki ya kifua, akaanguka bibi yake akiona, ndio naye akapiga nduru. Kama wanakijiji walimuitika, OCS naye akamalizwa hapo hapo.
And if David Ikaba and his 3 young men did not kill the chief, why did the OCS lead a team of 12 officers 65 kilometers away to Embu to arrest them? Remember, the OCS had received crucial information from Gikwaro the entire night.
Sasa ndio waliangalia mwili wamechoma. Hapa alichomwa hapo. Ndio sasa asubuhi utulira hapa sote pamoja na OCS. Hapa kwangu hapa kwa hiyo kiti tunaongea tu. Sasa ndio walisema wakati saa 12 hivi wasema wacha tuende tuwachake wale wako karibu karibu. Mr. Kenywa wakaenda hivi na sisi tukaenda hivi.
Now you see why that Ikaba name is very necessary.
Sisi watu kama ende 9 akikwala liona. Na bibi yake kwa ndizi yake andika statement. Anasema alikutana na David kwa chini ya mboma yake kiwa amekatia huko na wageni watatu hakuwa na wajua, wakiwa na kibuyu kiwa kwa ngunia. Na anasema ni mtoto ndanda yake. Wakasalimiana na wakapitana. Mama kaenda chini ya chamba huko, mbuzi zilikuwa zimetolewa kwa babai na kuna miguka huko. Kijana naye akaenda kwa babaya. Baadaye mama kitoka huko kwa zamba kirundi nyumbani, kijana naye anatoka kwa babake na wageni wake wakiimba nyimbo za matu. Na akaambia huyu mama leo nitalala nawe. Huyo mama hiyo story ameongea kwa ndizi yake. Lakini baada ya kufika kwa koti alikuwa anakana. Hakuongea kitu kama hiyo. Lakini hiyo story aliongea kwa ndizi yake na ikaandikwa.
Murder Tapes maintains that the court under normal circumstances could not be satisfied with this evidence. In fact, in dismissing the defense witnesses, the Lady Justice Lucy Gitari Court did not rely on any contradictory evidence. The court simply said the accused persons were not being truthful. Just that. That the court had relied on the direct evidence that was given by the eyewitnesses.
Those people who committed the crime, it was a bad incident. But those people who committed this crime are well known to PW1 and his family. And the witnesses are members of his family only. And people related to them, people that they stay with. So by trying to involve neighbors, he's trying to hide the truth. And eventually, the late and the other people who also passed on because of the incident will not get justice. Because I believe by putting or denying us justice, putting us into problems and deny us justice does not bring justice to the affected family or to the deceased. Because the truth will never be seen, because those people who committed the crime are known to the witnesses.
Njoka anasema wakati alivikiza ndugu yake hapo kwa ndugu yake huyo mwingine Kikwale, wenye walianza kumwataki ndugu yake Chivu, hakuna mwenye aliweza kutambua na macho yake, ndiye akageuza pikipiki akakimbia kaenda. Ndugu yake Njoka ndiye mkubwa kuliko Kikwale, na ndiye mkubwa hata kuliko huyo Chifu.
The reason Murder Tapes remains convinced that the conviction of the 9 people is a possible mistrial is pegged on the gaps in the investigation. For example, Jonad Njagi Kibyuibi told the court that he was nowhere near Kamaindi the day the chief was killed. His wife had left him with children and he was working to feed that young family.
Siku hiyo nilitoka nyumbani saa 12 asubuhi na dakika 40. Nikaenda kibarua. Kijiji naitwa Kiamasaki. Mbere. Embu County. Tulikuwa tunafunga mitaro ya kupanda nyanya mpaka saa 11. Tukafunga kazi saa 11. Kuna mwenzangu tulikuwa tumetoka na yeye hapo nyumbani na hata ni jirani. Jose Kinyaga Ndika. Na kwa hii kesi nilimpeleka kiwa defense witness. Tukateremka kwa maji hapo tukaoga. Tukaenda mpaka Mbalia. Nikaenda tukafika kwa hoteli ya mtu anaitwa Mutugi Kanjiro. Tulifika hapo mwendo saa 12:30. Tukakaa pale ikafika saa 1. Tukaamka kuenda kuona news saa 1. Kwa hoteli ya mtu anaitwa Njagi. Njagi na huyu marehemu chifu ni ndugu moja wa baba moja lakini si wa baba moja. Kuenda kuangalia news saa 1 pale ndio nilipata ile maneno ikiongewa wapi? Kwamba chifu ameua. Na hiyo maneno ilikuwa imezungumzwa hapo na ndugu yake chifu anaitwa James Njoka. Na huyu James Njoka nilirudi kusikia yeye ndiye alikuwa amembeba na pikipiki kumpeleka pale kwa ndugu yake Kikwale mahali aliuawa. Na mimi nikaelekea nyumbani. Ukashikwa. Nilirudi kupigiwa simu na ndisi yaya alikuwa anaitwa Mwangi. Tarehe 14 mwezi wa 5 saa 3:30 usiku. Alipopiga simu nikachukua simu nikaona ni namba mgeni. Akaniita jina langu moja. Akaniita Njagi. Inasemekana wewe ni mmoja wa wale waliua Chief. Kamwambia mimi sikuwa kwa hiyo kitondo na sikuwa karibu, sikusinda area.
The investigating officer did nothing to establish that he went to the said hotel or established from other clients if the accused person was indeed there. The police did not establish from his employer if he was at work that evening. Njagi Kibyuibi is a key person in this story. 4 months before the chief was killed, Njagi Kibyuibi's brother, Zephaniah Gitonga Kibyuibi, went missing. The late Gitonga had gone to the market and passed by the river to Beth on December 12th, 2018, but did not return.
Tano, watu walikuwa wameanza kusema ameua. Lakini ukiuliza mtu kama alisundia kiwawa, mtu anakuambia hiyo maneno ni Musango anayazungumza. Hiyo maneno ikawa inaongewa na watu, hata kuna mahali viatu vyake vinaoneka. Jumapili tarehe 16 tukatoka nyumbani watu wengi, around watu 20, kuenda kumwangalia kwa maji mahali viatu vyake vilikuwa vinatanjwa. Kuenda kuingia kwa maji kumwangalia mtoto wa Josephat Kikwale anaitwa Mwiti, mwenye alikuja kuuawa hapa Oweri tarehe 1 mwezi wa 5, baada ya chifu kuuawa tarehe 30 mwezi wa 4, akatuvukusa na mizale na panga. Sababu wabuvi wakiteka chamaki walikuwa wanasema wanasikia mwili kwa maji ukiwa kwa karata. Pale Mwiti alikuwa anatuvukusa tusiangalie.
That was on April 4th, 2019, 26 days before the murder of the chief. The remains of his body were found in a sack at a section of the river where the chief, together with his brother Gikware and their sons, had been accused of enclosing and blocking residents from accessing the resource.
This local was missing. They used him as an advantage because he was a male adult. And they went ahead, I don't know where they got some bones, called the media. And what I think from my side, they dumped them in water, then called the media and pretended that the bones were there. That was 3 months after the guy went missing.
Only that, these were no animal bones. These were human remains. And a few days later, the Kibuibi family will bury them. For Leah Muthoni Ngige, the 5th accused person, she told the court that on the material day, her daughter was to reopen school and she took her to school in Embu. She returned home at around 8 p.m. Now, between midnight and 1 a.m., while she was sleeping, policemen came to her house, asked for the whereabouts of her husband, who is Nthiga Kirema. They searched the house and then escorted her to Chuka police station, where she was informed that she was being arrested in connection with the murder of the deceased chief. She had a phone, and police did not bother to triangulate her movements that day and establish the truth. Murder Tapes has consistently and regrettably agreed with the defense that the initial alibis of the accused persons was never investigated. By far, Murder Tapes is looking at a shoddy investigation that placed 9 people, whether guilty or not, behind bars. Apart from ignoring the evidence of the accused persons, especially that of Nthiga Kirema, which clearly displaced the prosecution's case, the court in Chuka failed to take judicial notice of the relationship between the witnesses. Of the 9 prosecution witnesses, 5 of them were family members. Key witness Josephat Gikware Mukengu, who is the late chief's brother, Gikware's wife Roslyn Nguru, their daughter Anne Wanjira, the chief's son Eliud Mushiri Majau, and the chief's elder brother James Njoka. In fact, it was Njoka who brought the chief to Gikware's compound on his motorbike. In his police statement, Njoka had said he could not identify a single person he saw attacking his brother. However, in court, he suddenly emerged with a vivid description of the suspects. These people that Njoka could not identify are believed to have been the 3 people that accompanied David Ikaba to the home of Josephat Gikware. Now, those were the 5 witnesses who were relatives of the chief. The other witnesses were a pathologist and an investigating officer. The remaining 2 witnesses were locals, David Mutegi Njeru and John Mwindu Karangu, These two witnesses repeated everything as had been said by Josephat Gikware. To the court, this appeared as corroboration, but to murder tips, this appeared as choreographed evidence. In fact, John Mwindu Karangu said he saw Njoka get a matchbox and set the body of the chief on fire. This begged the question, just how far Karangu was standing witnessing this horror. David Mutegi Njeru repeated the evidence of Josephat Gikware almost verbatim, naming the accused persons and the roles each of them played. In fact, he was keen to mention that Njagi Kibuibi cut the chief on his back near the shoulders and that Ndega Kirema also cut the chief on the back. And when the chief tried to run, he met Cecilia Katora and Leah Modhoni. These two women started hitting the chief with sticks until he fell down. That evidence was exactly the same way as was given by prosecution witness Josephat Gikware. And that testimony appeared to ensure that Ndega Kirema and Kibuibi do not escape the wrath of the court. But why?
Hiyo swali nitakujibu kivyangu. Mimi naonanga waliniwekea hii kitendo sababu ya huyo ndugu yangu kunikandamiza, sababu ni wao walikuwa wamefanya hii kitendo. Haki ya huyo ndugu yangu isiji kapatikana, watoto wao wakamatwe.
This person, Gikware, that's the time he started invading my land. And I reported this matter to the DC at Chuka, who also came and visited the scene and actually cautioned him against interfering with my land. But he never stopped that. So that land was isolated. But he did not stop there. Then come adjudication time, because it was so clear that the land belongs to me. Land registration number 61, 62, that 800, and that 3936 were recorded under my names because they are adjacent. But there were reasons why they were not dumped together. The reason why they're trying to put me, or they did put me into this matter, is to fix me so that they can keep me away from fighting for my rights.
And you said you're not the only one. He has land.
I am not the only. Actually, he has a case with another person who is also in jail here, Gerard Munywa Munugu. His son has settled on his land, even at the moment, and that's why this fellow is here. Gerard Jeru Igua is also here, and the wife is in Meru because of he wanted to acquire 8 acres of his land. It's only that I don't remember the registration number of his land. So that old man is here. This other fellow you just talked to, I think he has told you his story. There is also another person who is also inside here.
Just like 90% of the prosecution witnesses are related, all the accused persons are related and all have a land dispute with the chief's family. They say the chief's family visited their area, bought the land they stay on currently, but the family has been making illegal demarcations, cutting into other people's parcels of land with impunity. So, what next? Ndega Kirema, his wife Leah Modhoni, and Njagi Kibuibi have filed the first appeal against their conviction and sentencing. But there is a problem, a very big problem. And that problem is at the Chuka law courts.
Tangu tufungwa tarehe 21 mwezi wa 3 2024 na tukakuja tukaandika apili mingi tere. Bando hiyo faili bando haijatoka Chuka. Iende mahakama ya mbele. Bando mahakama ya Chuka haijatoa hiyo faili hapo.
They are talking about the proceedings not being ready. And when we try to get to know exactly what is happening, they keep on cheating and trying to evade the question. And to date, 1 year and 4 months down the line, those proceedings are not ready. And me thinks by so doing, they're trying to delay justice, they're trying to deny us justice, because the soonest those proceedings are done with, and the soonest the case would be started at their court of appeal. But they are denying us justice by trying those proceedings deliberately.
9 people have been jailed for the murder of the chief, but the case against them appears to be very shaky. If they succeed in the appeal, then the locals in Kamainde and the family of the late Chief Japhet Majau will never see justice for the murder of the chief and the bloodbath that followed in Embu. It is the rule of thumb that you would rather have 10 guilty people walking the streets than have 1 innocent person in prison. So, what happens when a justice system makes no room for the other truth? When a man's life is reduced to guilt by association in a courtroom that is too eager to unify the verdict and move on? What happens? And by the way, if you think this is about Ndhiga Kirema or John Ndhiga's stolen freedom, you are wrong. It's about a system's failure to see the man behind the name as a father, a human, and everything in between. And this is not even about innocence. It is about the evidence. These men and women were not just failed by the system. They were destroyed by it. And some may never live to see their names cleared. That is the most permanent injustice of all. Good evening.